now. We the talk around town. Alex threw the ball to Smokey for a touchdown. It's fourth down and you don't really want no more. We've been winning from the door. You should check the scoreboard. Check the scoreboard.
Welcome back to another episode of the Scoreboard. We're getting close to playoff time. We got crucial matchups coming up this week. Got some fantasy advice too, because it's getting into the crucial phase in fantasy for sure. And I'm sure Spooky's going to have some interesting things to say about that later on. But first and foremost, how are you doing?
Oh man, I'm doing good. Better than the Vikings at this moment, because they are the first loss to the Lions.
That was a tough one.
Oh yeah,
that was funny though.
Yeah, yeah, it was. But as far as our competition, we both scored exactly 9 points, which keeps my 6-point lead on you right now. And the total, where's my total? 120 to 114.
And can you believe the team that let me down was of all teams? It was the Raiders. It had to be the Raiders, right? And, what was I thinking? They're 6-6 now.
You also picked the Jets for some reason.
Right, yeah, that was the one that I was really feeling it, and they were good. They probably played their best game all year.
It was,
but
yeah.
If I knew Gardner Minshew was starting, I probably would have picked the Eagles though.
Yeah, that really made the difference. I think Gardner, like you said, Gardner is a better quarterback, and I don't know why they don't just stick with him.
For sure, he's a more traditional, I guess, more boring and more one-dimensional. But if this is a team that's like in playoff contention at this point, I think Gardner Minshew should be the guy that you're going with.
I agree.
Absolutely, no doubt. But I guess that's up to them to decide. We'll see how that looks going forward. But he definitely he made a case for himself. Well, I'm going to have to, I guess, still catch up. Seems like we're tying every week, and I never can. But maybe this week. Maybe this week I'll get some points. So we're starting off with the incredibly mediocre Thursday night game of the Steelers at the Vikings.
Yeah, two incredibly mediocre teams right here. And it seems like no matter how good the Vikings seem to be, and you like to point out a lot that Kirk Cousins is having a really good season, all things considered, but they just end up mediocre. They end up 500, and I think this right here is, the battle of mediocrity. The Steelers, they got that win over the Ravens, which is actually a great win, but it was nothing spectacular. They didn't do it in any great fashion. They weren't explosive. They just happened to out-defense them, I guess, is what it came down to. This right here, I think it's a toss-up. I think it's going to be dead even. So I'm going to give the 3 points to the home team and take the Vikings.
Right, yeah, but Kirk Cousins, I mean, it's kind of paradoxical comparing him to how the Vikings have been doing, and they've been in a lot of close games, and their record could be wildly different. But if you take away the team's records, I think Kirk Cousins should be MVP frontrunner. If you could look at just statistics, I did some digging through quarterback statistics earlier today. There is a very good argument to be made that he's having a better season than Aaron Rodgers in terms of passer rating, touchdown to interception ratio, completion percentage, all things considered. He's probably the best overall statistical quarterback in the league this year, especially of those who have started all games or most games. So he's been doing well. He's not going to win MVP, I think, because of the team's record, and if they don't make the playoffs, he's for sure not winning. But that's really what holds him back. And individually, he's having a very good statistical season. Now, in this one, if you're going to pick the Vikings, I'll take the... No, you took the Vikings. Yeah, I'll take the Steelers. Just to disagree with you, this was one of those where I'm just going to take what you don't, hopefully make up some points. I probably slightly favor the Vikings as well, because I just lined out. They're 5-7 now. They could easily be 8-4 if some games fall differently, and they've had a lot of games decided in the final minutes, as was this one against Detroit as well, which somehow hilariously they couldn't hold in the most unexpected fashion possible. But I'll have the Steelers in this one, hopefully make up a point. We have the Cowboys at the Washington.
Yeah, this is going to come down to how healthy Zeke is, I believe, because that Washington defense is great. They have a really good run defense, and they're gonna need Pollard and Zeke in this game, I think. And it sounds weird to say that because the Cowboys have a much better record, but Washington has actually been doing really well, and Taylor Heineke has been really successful lately. He's holding it down. They're working out. I guess you could chalk it up to being against the Raiders last week and 17-15 win, but I think Washington actually looks good when you watch them play comparatively to what they were doing earlier in the season and the talent on that team. I think I will stick with the Cowboys here, though. I think they have enough firepower to get past Washington on the road.
I do agree. I'll take Dallas as well, and I'm personally caught in a kind of a sick situation in this one because I'm forced to root for Dallas. Out of all teams, with the playoffs in mind, Washington right now is one of the biggest contenders, being a 6-6 with the Niners for a wild card spot in the NFC. So a Washington loss would actually help me at this point. Quite extreme, and the Cowboys are going to make the playoffs no matter what. So. Kind of morbidly, I'm rooting for Dallas this week, though I really don't want to, and I really want to root for Washington, but I probably don't have a choice in the matter. The Jaguars at the Titans.
Yeah, the Titans are coming back off the bye. The Jaguars are still as horrible as we ever thought they were. I'm expecting the Titans to use this as a get-right game after a couple of bad games that really set them back. Now, they're getting Julio back. They're not getting A.J. Brown. They really need A.J. Brown. But I don't suppose they're going to need him in this game because it is the Jaguars and they have a horrible defense. They have an all-around horrible team. They have a few bright spots. Well, one bright spot. But he's not playing well. Lawrence doesn't look good, man. I don't know. I think he's going to work out eventually. I think it's all Urban Meyer at this time. But the Jags are bad. And Titans should use this as a get-right game. I will take them easily to win this one.
Well, if the rookie season is anything to judge by, then Trevor Lawrence is going to be Peyton Manning, because that's the exact same rookie season that Peyton Manning had so far. Anyway, I've been saying this for a long time. I do not want to judge a quarterback before he's played at least 3 seasons on a proper team with proper support, being the guy, the franchise quarterback, face of the offense. We didn't expect them to be that good. We need to generally turn back the expectation that talented quarterbacks will come in and just make the playoffs instantly, become superstars year one. It's a rare occasion. Just like Justin Herbert did it. We've seen, I guess Mac Jones is kind of doing it, though. He came into a very good situation, obviously, but it's not the norm, and it doesn't happen a lot. There's absolutely no judgment there in Trevor Lawrence not doing that at the moment. They'll get it right. They'll have time to improve. Titans, I mean, you've seen what happened to the Vikings against a team you thought you couldn't lose to, with the Lions. Just be careful, don't make that mistake, and they're going to win for sure. I'll take Tennessee as well. Got Seahawks at the Texans.
Yeah, last week, one surprising outcome and one not so surprising. The Texans got mollywopped by the Colts. But we knew the Colts were much better than the Texans. It's just they displayed their dominance in a fashion that was even more unexpected than I thought, or unexpected. Whatever I'm trying to say there. The Seahawks are actually coming off of a win over the 49ers. Nobody expected that because the Seahawks have looked really bad. So I'm going to chalk that up as a fluke at this moment. And I'm going to say that this game right here comes down to who can out-bad the other team. And I will say that the Seahawks are better than the Texans.
This is a poverty matchup for sure. Now, I'll say this about Seattle. I don't have much faith in them winning because they had the least to do with them winning last week. Out of everyone involved, the Seahawks were the last to contribute to actually beating the Niners. The Niners were beating the Niners. The officials were beating the Niners. Probably the weather was whatever. Anything you come up with was beating the Niners more than the Seahawks were. So I don't think they can beat anyone. But this is the Texans. It's a tough game to pick, and I'll go with Seattle because I guess just because of the inertia, knowing Russell Wilson is their starting quarterback and he's not been good this year, but maybe he can do it. I don't think it's a good team. I think they needed gimmicks, they needed favorable calls to win, and they needed the Niners to be absolutely terrible and beat themselves every opportunity that they could. Not a great team, but neither is Houston. So Seattle to win it. On account of Russell Wilson, maybe with one or two brilliant plays in an otherwise still pretty disappointing season. The Raiders at the Chiefs.
It sounds weird to say this, but I'm going to say it. The Chiefs are not as good as their record. And it's crazy because they've won like 5 in a row now, something like that, 5 or 6. But the Chiefs just don't look like the Chiefs. That offense is not clicking. They're winning because they've had a ton of favorable matchups. They're going against the bottoms of the league right now, and people can praise the Broncos all they want, but that's a 500 team that plays like a 3-win team, in my opinion. But the Chiefs and the Raiders are just as bad, if not worse, than the Broncos. So I think this is another favorable matchup. They're probably going to look less than mediocre and still pull off the win here. I'll take the Chiefs at home.
I think Kansas City is going to have one more game against the Chargers, and that's probably going to be the deciding the fate of the division, as well as seeing what this team's really made of. You are right in the sense. But I will say they've clawed back. I mean, they were down. They had losing records. We thought they had no chance of even making the playoffs. They looked terrible. They've come back. Although, be it against inferior competition, that's part of it. And this is the Raiders, who are going to go 500 exactly as I predicted before the season. They are 6-6 now, and that's going to stay that way. This one they're going to lose. I think I'll take the Chiefs as well. Explosive offense, and the Raiders just look terrible, just not getting stuff together. And last week against Washington, it was not pretty. So Kansas City wins. The Saints at the Jets.
And this is almost a tank bowl. You think about it, the Saints are at 5-7 right now. I don't think they've had that bad of a record since 2016, I think it was. That was maybe a 7-win season, and that's what it looks like they're headed for right now. Yeah, but the Jets, they did look better, yeah. Zach looks better. Like he looked like he knew what he was doing for the first time this season out there. And maybe in the right matchup, they could get a win or two before the end of the season. I really don't know. Like, this is a tough matchup because this could very well be Zach's next win here. And just put one over on the Saints because, their quarterback situations being what they are, the Saints could easily drop this. I'm really torn. I think I'm going to stick with the Saints just because logic would tell you that the Saints should beat the Jets.
It's the smart pick, and I'm going to go with it as well, but I do fully echo what you're saying. I think this could be an easy upset game. In fact, I wouldn't even consider it a huge upset. So Jets played pretty well. You could say their momentum is looking in the right direction. We just haven't seen enough of them being consistent, and the Saints still have a decent defense. They still have sort of a lot of veteran presence. They probably have a good running game, and if they're able to get that going against an admittedly very strong Jets defensive front, I think they'll still pull it out. It's probably the smart bet to say that they'll pull it out, but I don't think they're necessarily huge favorites. And I don't think this is a blowout by any means. But I'll go with the Saints as well. Speaking of NFC South teams that are exactly 5-7, the Falcons at the Panthers.
Oh yeah, and I'm really surprised that the way the Falcons play, that they actually have 5 wins. But you could also say that for the Panthers for a portion of the season. It's really the tale of two different teams. There's been points where the Panthers look like world beaters, and then there's been points where they look worse than the Falcons. And speaking of momentum, I think this is going to be who can change the course of their momentum. The Falcons coming off of a bad loss to the Bucs and Tom Brady, and the Panthers coming off of a bye week but a horrible loss where they actually pulled Cam Newton because he was playing so horribly after his successful comeback to the NFL. This makes it tough. You know what? I think this is going to jinx it, but the Falcons actually play better on the road over the past couple of seasons than they do at home. And I'll have to check the record, but that's what it looks like to me, and I believe that may be true. I'm going to pick the Falcons to take this one on the road.
It's a difficult game to pick for sure. The Panthers started the season 3-0, were a top 5 team, and then people start getting hurt, and they had a lot of key players out with injuries. And I don't know what the quarterback situation is looking like. Is Cam going to start again? When Sam Darnold is going to be healthy again? What about PJ Walker? No idea. At least that is one spot that the Falcons have kind of sorted. If not necessarily in his prime anymore, but Matt Ryan is at least consistent and he's not hurt. That being said, though, coin toss game, and I will give it to the home team. I'll say the Panthers win it. This may as well be a low-scoring affair, but I'll say Panthers take it. Also, to disagree with you, because I need another point, and I strongly believe in your ability to jinx the Falcons, just like you did a certain other football team from Georgia, no less than 7 days ago. Which, if we have time, we can quickly
absolutely
quickly talk about after these predictions. We have the Ravens at the Browns.
Yeah, Ravens coming off of that tough loss to the Steelers. And I think Lamar is getting better. I ain't going to say he's back in his groove yet, but every game coming off of that illness, I think he's going to continue to improve. And he should continue to improve here. Now, the Browns coming off of a much-needed bye week. We're going to see if Baker can actually get in this game, look better, look like he's not dying out there on the field, looks like his arm's not falling off, hopefully, and get that run game going, and the good defense. I think this is going to be a heavy run game here on both sides of the field, or both sides of the ball, actually. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and stick with the Ravens. The Ravens are a playoff team, and as bad as they've looked in the past few games, they're still better than the Browns overall, so I will stick with the Ravens.
So over the last few weeks, you've mentioned that the Ravens are not a playoff team. They're a team that's gonna make the playoffs, but I don't think there's right now there be teams of higher quality that are not making the playoffs, at least judging from these past few weeks. Now with the Browns, though, I have no idea what this team is. I thought they were going to come in really, really strong this season, just continue what they did last year, which typically, if you have just a solid run game, strong offensive line, good rotation of running backs, superstar running backs, that's not something that people just suddenly stop from one season to the next like you see oftentimes with like a running quarterback. Or some gimmicky option offense. That's not something that you can really adjust to and just shut it down out of the blue. But somehow the Browns haven't really gotten it together on offense, particularly this year. And I will also take the Ravens. Though interesting note is that the Browns are slight favorites, considered slight favorites by the bookmakers at the moment. I guess the really horrible performances by Lamar Jackson these past few weeks kind of play into that. I mean, he had 4 interceptions and like 6 or 7 sacks or something. It was crazy against Pittsburgh. He looked completely lost at times. So hoping for him to get it together so they can beat the Browns. Though I don't care much either way. But I'm gonna stick with the Ravens as well. Maybe I'm getting fooled by their record a little bit, but on paper I think they should be able to pull it out. Giants at Chargers.
Oh man, Jake Fromm is probably going to be getting the start here, which is very interesting. I don't think Jake Fromm has what it takes to. He's not going to be a Gardner Minshew. That's for sure. I don't know. Maybe he can do something. Every now and then we see that happen where a backup just comes in that is not expected to do anything and actually plays well. If you think about Nick Foles or Case Keenum, I don't even think this guy's literally on the level of Nick Foles or Case Keenum or where they were when they actually made things happen in their career. And the Chargers are just, they have the momentum behind them. They beat up on the Bengals pretty badly. And they're winning that, or not winning the division yet. But I think in the end, like you said, once they face the Chiefs, they're going to win that division. Yeah, Chargers at home should be easy.
Yeah, absolutely. Justin Herbert outdueling Joe Burrow big time, which is one game that I got you on, by the way, which was very important for me. Raiders ended up letting me down, but the Chargers definitely did not, and he looked fantastic. One thing that I will take Chargers as well. One thing, though, you seem to just not like your Georgia quarterbacks. It's weird. Whenever we're talking about a receiver or running back from Georgia, 7 years ago, an NFL veteran of 7 years, you still bring up every time, oh, that guy's from Georgia. Yeah. Or, oh, that guy from Georgia, he's going to be good in the NFL. You can talk about their entire defense now. Somehow, just it seems like quarterbacks, you don't think highly of Jake Fromm. You don't think Stetson Bennett's even going to be drafted.
Jacob
How come just the quarterbacks?
Oh, it's the quarterbacks under Kirby Smart. Now, I love Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford is awesome. Matt Stafford is a world-class quarterback. I have too much pain from Kirby Smart starting inferior quarterbacks over superstar quarterbacks. You know, even Jacob Eason, for what he was better than Jake Fromm. And Justin Fields was better than Jake Fromm. Now, JT Daniels is better than Stetson Bennett, and we're just doing it all over again. We saw that last year when they actually put JT in. He proved how much better he was than Stetson Bennett, and now for some reason Kirby just loves this kid, and he's going to make sure this underdog story plays out. He's going to either win with him or go down with the ship with him, and if we don't win, like, it just brings pain. So I don't like looking at these guys. Now, luckily, Stetson Bennett is not going to be a quarterback in the NFL. He's not going to get drafted. I don't even think he's even going to be an unsigned free agent. I think he ends up doing a talk radio show in Athens for quite a few years to come. But he's not going to make it to the NFL, so he can't hurt me anymore after that. But that's the reason.
Wow. Well, I mean, you gotta believe in your quarterbacks. All I'm gonna say is, where I was rooting for AJ McCarron, Jay Coker, and God knows who, because Alabama didn't have a lot of good quarterbacks this past decade until Tua came around, and I was always banging the drum for them to make it to the NFL and do well. So I don't know. I think you gotta have a little bit more faith. Maybe we'll see Jake Fromm this weekend. Maybe he'll have a good game. Maybe not. I don't know. But Chargers should win either way. Lions at the Broncos.
Yeah, speaking again of momentum, do the Lions actually have enough momentum off of that one win to beat the Broncos? It's possible, because the Broncos are not on fire by any means. They're 6-6, and like I said earlier, they're playing less than a 6-6 team, in my opinion. You know, they got stomped out by the Chiefs, who are actually not on their A game at the moment also. Yeah, but even so, it's the Lions. They don't have any weapons on that team, and the Broncos still have their weapons, even if they're lacking just a little bit. Even at the quarterback position, the Broncos is better, so I'm going to take the Broncos at home.
Quarterback position, they're better? Maybe a little bit. It's not that close. A lot of mediocrity going on. Okay, you ready for this?
Yeah.
I got the Lions. I'm taking the Lions. Win streak incoming. That was the biggest win, probably of the weekend. And I guarantee you, coming off of this weekend, there's not a team in the league feeling better about themselves than the Lions, who, by the way, have the worst record. But that win was huge. That was a massive win. I think they'll keep riding that high one more time. And the Broncos, they're no better than the Vikings. I think they're pretty much in the same league as the Vikings. So it's entirely possible for them to lose and fall to the Lions, who now have come in with more confidence than they had before. They managed to pull it out against Minnesota, division rival. I think, the Broncos will get caught in the crossfire here. They'll still underestimate them. And the momentum is in favor of Detroit, so I'm going to take him. Upset pick. Though I will say, if the Lions lost, their record would be 1-11-1, which is pretty. That would look nice to read because it's all ones, but I don't think it will happen. I think they'll win. Niners at the Bengals.
This is actually a tough game for me to pick because the Niners did not look good. Like you said, they beat themselves against a fluky Seahawks. It's still kind of funny to think about that game. And I'm not laughing at your misery. It's just I'm laughing at the fact that the 3-win Seahawks actually got a win over a decent 49ers team with a lot of firepower. But, I think about, is Joe Burrow actually healthy? He's got this finger issue, and he looked like he was in a lot of pain this last game. I don't know if that contributed to them not beating the Chargers. They did not put up a ton of points. They put up 22, which maybe if the defense was on point, that would have been enough. But that defense is not on point right now. It's a tough decision. It really is, because Both of these teams are kind of in the same boat at the moment. You know what? I will just chalk this up to the home team once again and go with the Bengals, because you're probably going to pick the 49ers.
So, prediction-wise, I was actually going to pick whichever you don't, because I fully agree with your assessment. This game's a pick 'em. And you look at the odds makers agree, this is the closest game of the weekend. You don't know what you're getting for either of these teams, who sometimes play down to competition, as we've seen the Niners do last week, as we've seen the Bengals also do now. Hoping that Deebo Samuel's going to be back, that's going to be a huge benefit to that offense, because you clearly see was missing when they hand the ball to George Kittle on those jet sweeps and end-around runs. It doesn't look right, but they need him back for sure. And as for the Bengals, I think Joe Burrow actually played better after that injury. I mean, they were down 24 points very early, and he got hurt. And with his pinky finger pointing 90 degrees the wrong way, he started throwing better passes for some reason. By the way, you ever seen Brian Baldinger on his talk shows? That's how that hand looked. It was not that finger was in a very incorrect orientation, but he toughed through it. So kudos to that. But of course they didn't manage to really come back in that game, didn't have much of a chance, and the Chargers ran away with it, largely to the Bengals defense as well. So I'm going to take the Niners, because I have to disagree with you, and I have no opinion on this. This could go completely either way. Anything's possible. Any team could win by 30 points, depending on how the other team decides to show up. I will say both of these teams have pretty good pass rushers, though, so maybe we're gonna see more of a opting down to the run game from both sides. We'll see. Bills at Bucks.
Yeah, the Bills coming off of a very hard, just ugly game. Actually, I can't even say it was ugly. I kind of enjoyed watching them play in the snow and the crazy winds. It looked cool, if nothing else, but that was a tough game. But they did take the L. I guess that was really just a defensive battle from two great defenses this season, and they got out-defensed. The Bucks, on the other hand, I'm sure we're gonna see Tom Brady win the MVP once again, because the Bucks just have way too much firepower. You know what, though? I'm gonna be a contrarian, and I'm gonna say the Bills get back on track, because we've seen the Bucks at least once or twice this season just drop a game for no apparent reason to an inferior team. And I can't even say the Bills are really inferior. The Bills are a great team. They're just having their struggles this season, and some games are not going their way, but also there's games where they could put 40 on a team. So I'll take the Bills on the road.
Yeah, Buffalo's a much better team than their record would show, but that's at some point that's going to get back to you, right? As that team, as the coach, you have to show up, you have to perform. Yeah, you're going to make the playoffs, but once you get there, you can't afford to look amazing and win one week and then just basically not show up and lose to Jacksonville the next week, or score 10 points in the season. That's how Josh Allen's kind of played himself out of the MVP conversation, by just not being that consistent. He looks like the best quarterback in the league one week, and then he just looks mediocre the next week. That's something that needs to be fixed for sure. I will take the Bucs in this one, because like I said, the Bills are not that consistent. The Bucs, on the other hand, are very consistent, because we've determined many times that if you took like all of their starters from their offense, their entire second string would still be like an above average roster. They have depth for days, and I don't think the Bills will be able to hang with it, at least not reliably so. I'll take the Buccaneers to win it. I'll say this though, because New England's unbiased, so we're not talking about them this week, but that game of Buffalo against New England, that was incredible. I mean, Bill Belichick showed up with a playbook from the pre-Superbowl era. That was 1940. That was a 1940s playbook. Yeah. Like before the 4 pass was invented, and he succeeded with it in 2021, which is just mad to think about. That's the ingenuity, I guess, they're from the Patriots. Which, of course, no one likes to hear this, but they're on bye week right now, and they're sitting around the number 1 seed in the AFC, which I know that doesn't go over too well. I totally get it, but that's what it is. They're apparently still on top of that division, even after everything that's happened with the other teams.
Crazy.
We'll see how that develops. Yeah, we have a I guess could be a good Monday night, good Sunday night game, primetime game, if the Bears hold up their end of the bargain at Green Bay.
So you think they can?
It's a divisional game.
I mean, I guess they played somewhat decent this past week, putting up 22 on the Cardinals, but in the end, they still lost by 11 because they are completely inferior to the Cardinals. And I think there's potential in the Bears, especially with Justin Fields under center. But Matt Nagy is the problem. The Packers are coming back off of bye. Aaron Rodgers should be fired up to make the home stretch here at the end of the season. Packers by a great bit.
Yeah, I think that divisional game argument, it works a lot of the time, but it doesn't work in the NFC North. I think it's quite the opposite case, because for over a decade, Aaron Rodgers has been the president, king, and god emperor of all those three teams. Just day in, day out, every season, basically. I have to at some point look at his record in division. It's probably something obscene. So the argument there doesn't really work when we're talking about the Packers. I will take him to win. Whether Justin Fields plays or not, he doesn't have the team surrounding him, and he's also not up to that level to really outduel Aaron Rodgers anyway. It would take a lot of hiccups from that Packers defense, which is entirely plausible. I mean, they're not infallible by any means, but I'm going to trust Aaron Rodgers. They're definitely a smart pick to make it happen in primetime. Now, this is an actual good game, though, Monday night. Here we got the Rams at the Cardinals.
Yeah, speaking of a Georgia quarterback that I like, I love Matt Stafford. He's a great quarterback, and he's proving it right now. You know, he say what you want about the Jaguars. I mean, he did what he's supposed to do. If you're going to be a good team, you have to really go out there and stomp out the really bad teams, and that's exactly what they did. That's all you could ask of them. The Cardinals, however, are not a bad team, and they are probably just as good as the Rams. I know some people like to debate that. Yes, I don't think Kyler Murray is better than Matt Stafford, but the Rams are a super team, as you've pointed out in the past. They have great receivers. They have great running backs. They're just good, and they know how to run that offense very well. Now, the Rams, I still think the Rams are going to, well, I don't think there's any doubt at this point that the Rams are going to the playoffs. It's just it's a question of if they're going to do well in the playoffs at this point. I'll take, man, that is tough. It's tough. Cardinals probably, I bet Vegas has this as a really close matchup, probably Cardinals by 3, but I will take the Rams to pull this one out.
It certainly is a tough one. I'm going to go with the team that's more reliable to win when needed, and that's Arizona. I think in terms of quality, they're very even keel here. They're both very close together, and it's tough to really pick a team that's significantly better than the other. But we've seen the Rams choke games away in a bad way. Not just choke them away, but at some points actually get blown out and get dominated and get ran over. That's not something that Arizona tends to do or has tended to do this year, and so and plus they're at home, obviously, which you've also noted. My tendency goes towards picking Arizona there. I'm also glad you picked the Rams. I was gonna take Arizona no matter what, but I appreciate that there's another disagreement, because this could be a very big week. I think if I count right, we had 4 disagreements or even 5. So I think we had
4. Right.
We had the Steelers.
Yes.
We had we had 5. I think it was Steelers. I had the Panthers. I have the Lions. I have the Niners, and now I have the Cardinals.
Yes,
so that is 5 disagreements now. So 5 points for me, making up, obviously, and then it's going to actually become interesting with the predictions going into the playoffs.
Well, if you get them all right, you'll still be 1 behind. So you got that to look forward to.
But then I have a lot more games ahead of me.
All right.
And that'll be fine. 1 point gap is nothing, and I'm going to make up 5 this week. So that's going to be good. Colts, Dolphins, Patriots, and Eagles on bye week. Probably all feeling pretty good about themselves, especially New England, obviously. But Miami, what a comeback story! Are they 500 now? They're close to 500. They started the season 1-7. I think they're 6-7 now. Incredible playoff hunt.
Yeah.
That would be a comic for the ages, and Tua seems to finally have found his groove. You mentioned, by the way, Devontae Parker coming back, I think in the context of fantasy last week, and that had an impact. Yeah, absolutely. You definitely hit it right.
And Jalen Waddle still performed just as well also.
Yeah, this team definitely does have some promise still coming up. But quick discussion, we have the MVP vote up on my channel page once again. If the season ended today, who's your NFL MVP? You can submit your pick there. If you pick other, first of all, note that is because I can only use 5 options. So if your preferred candidate is not listed, I can only pick 4 and then put other as the 5th option. If you pick other, let us know who and why. Who do you have this week, Smokey?
Well, it comes down to who do I want to see win or who do I think is going to win. And I think at this point, all the analysts are starting to say it. It's going to be Tom Brady. Who do I want to win? It comes down to not a quarterback at this point. It's either Cooper Kupp or Jonathan Taylor. And I think Jonathan Taylor has the slight edge over there right now. But notice what Cooper Kupp is doing this season, because he's on a historic pace and he could put himself in the conversation with Randy Moss and Jerry Rice at the end of the season. But yeah, I think it will be Tom Brady overall.
For a single season, you mean Cooper Kupp?
Yes.
Not career-wise or anything.
Oh, no. Well, he's got a few more years to go for that.
Yeah, he's got like 20 more years to go. Let's do that. That's not happening. But for a single season, yeah, he's on an insane pace for sure. For me, I kind of have the more, I guess, progressive idea that the MVP really isn't a non-quarterback award anymore. So I know you like to think about that, but like Taylor, Cooper, all those other prolific players, that's the offensive player of the year territory. That's not MVP. MVP is a quarterback. Realistically, it's going to be a quarterback. I broken down earlier, statistically speaking, Kirk Cousins should absolutely be the front runner, or there is a good argument to be made for him to be the front runner. The record forbids him from winning. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson have played themselves out of contention. I think they're completely out. They're done. They've been too inconsistent, too many terrible games. They're gone. I think we can narrow down the field a little bit at this point. I think Tom Brady's obviously still in there, very consistent. Aaron Rodgers, Justin Herbert, and I guess Kirk Cousins, a lot of people wouldn't necessarily put him in. I think Kyler Murray's missed too many games, and Dak Prescott, don't really know what to think about him. But that's sort of the candidate, the only like realistic candidates that are left at this point. Not so sure about Matthew Stafford. It's a couple fewer names than we had a few weeks ago for sure. So it's gonna get close, but I'm gonna go Justin Herbert again this week, and that's sort of, I've been switching around between him and Josh Allen earlier in the season, depending on who had a better week. But at this point, it's clear that Herbert is kind of net notch above for this season. He's been doing better on a more consistent basis. Now the record isn't necessarily fantastic at 7-5, but I think they have a lot of winning still ahead of them. And a good playoff run as well. I'm gonna go Justin Herbert, though I can see statistically speaking, it's between him, Brady, and Cousins. It's kind of a toss up. Like I said, though, Cousins kind of disqualified by his record. Now, quickly, what do you have in terms of fantasy waiting for us this week?
Yeah, we've talked a lot about the playoffs are coming up, and for a lot of teams, we are in the playoffs this week, and some of them will be starting next week, depending on how you're set up. So it's not so much about strategy, how to get your team ready for the playoffs, but how to handle the playoffs while you're in there. And I want to talk a lot about playoff-specific or player-specific playoff matchups, and probably name a few names of people to go, not necessarily to go after, because your lineup is probably locked at this point and there's not a lot on the waiver wire, but people that you shouldn't be benching, that you might be thinking about benching.
All right. We'll be looking forward to that as well. Of course, I myself had my best matchup of the entire season, scoring-wise, best performance last week. Doesn't matter because I'm out of the playoffs. Garbage time all-star coming through once again when it doesn't matter at all. I'm blowing people out. But that's
Dalton.
What it is. Andy Dalton? Yeah, I guess.
Garbage time, yeah.
In a sense, yeah. that could be true. Mitch Trubisky as well, big time with the Bears. That's kind of where I'm at with fantasy this season. But for all those that still need some advice and still need to figure out best strategy to approach the playoffs, check out the Hurry Up Offense coming up in a couple hours after this video is up on this channel. Now, quick discussion, we have a couple more minutes, and I have to bring this up because you paraded about this last week. I didn't want to bring it up. I really did want to bring it up. I'm just saying, I really want to bring it up. I would have wanted to talk an hour about this. So there was a certain college football game that you were quite convinced about predicting the result of which, and specifically kind of hitting a certain quarterback who goes by the name of Bryce Steve Young. That's his official second name. No, I'm going with it because that's how he looked against Georgia. And you said that Georgia was going to shut him down and deny his Heisman possibility. So I didn't get to watch the game. How'd it go? Did you get it? Did you hit on that?
Yeah. All right. Settle down here. Because not only I said that, but almost every analyst in the entire world was saying that.
I wasn't.
You weren't because you're being a homer for Alabama. But
well, I also know that Bryce Young is just a phenomenal player.
Yeah, well, he may be. He may be when it's all said and done. And he looks like it's now, and he probably sealed up his Heisman. I mean, I'm not delusional. I'm not going to sit back and say that he didn't have a great game, because he did. Now, there were chances that Georgia could have taken him out, but beat themselves in many situations, falling over their own feet for some reason. But the fact is that this outcome comes down to one of a few different things. One of these few things had to have happened. Either every analyst in the country was wrong when they watched both of these teams play all season, and the outcomes of those games were completely fluky in every single game this season for the most part, or Saban faked it all season. He just faked it. He played every game so close, especially the teams that Georgia blew out by 3-4 touchdowns, and he played them all close and even lost to Texas A&M along the way. So either that, or Saban was faking it, or this game was rigged. And here's what?
No, keep going.
Here is the evidence in the favor of this game being rigged. Now, I'm not saying it was rigged. I don't know, and probably only a few people in the world would know if that is actually what happened, and they're not going to speak about it, and that's obvious. But here is the evidence. The SEC gets $25 million per team that goes into the playoff. Now, what's better than $25 million? $50 million. Look at the way this season played out. Georgia was in the playoff no matter what happened. No matter what. So, you need Alabama to win. Now, you would say, okay, well, why didn't Alabama win by 3 points or 7 points? Well, because you want the playoff to play out to where Georgia and Alabama meet in the national championship. So, therefore, you need Alabama to win convincingly, which also happened to be the exact same way the game went the last time they met. And you could also say, well, that just means that Alabama is that much better than Georgia. Maybe. Or maybe they were playing off of a script here. Now, Kirby Smart, and I'm trying not to scream when I talk about this dude, because I still think he's a great coach. But Kirby Smart, if you watch him in every single game he's ever coached at Georgia, he runs around, he's screaming. He has a guy specifically on the sideline to hold him back. He is emotional before
Sean McVay
and after
does too,
games.
though. I think the Rams invented that a couple years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Kirby acts a lot like Sean McVay, as a matter of fact. But now here's the thing. Watch this game. Go back and watch it, or just watch clips. Just watch the pieces of the game where they show Kirby Smart. He had accepted this outcome before the game ever started. He was not yelling. He was not running around. He was not jumping. The guy has a great vertical, by the way. If you ever watch clips of him actually jumping, he's got like NBA verticals out there on the field, on the sidelines. It's crazy to see. He wasn't doing that in this game. He didn't do any of that. Why Saban leading up to this game, Saban got all philosophizer. You know, he turned into a philosopher before this game for some reason. He wasn't the normal Saban. Saban knew what was going to happen before this game started. Kirby knew what was going to happen. And after the game, Kirby was just like, yeah, that's just how the game goes. It's fine. It's fine. We're going through the playoff. Like, he knew it. He knew it right away. It didn't matter. Now, who is to say that Greg Sankey did not go to either one of these guys or both of these guys and tell them this needs to be the outcome of this game?
Well, I won't say he did. I won't say that he didn't either. Because I'm not him, and I don't know that for sure. I will say I have a couple of more or less anecdotal points to make, though. If you're saying Kirby Smart's the Sean McVay of college football, we know Nick Saban is the Bill Belichick of college football. Yeah. Remember when Sean McVay and Bill Belichick met? What happened there? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Maybe something to take inspiration by. Secondly, also, we will see this game again later on this season, more than likely, unless Michigan somehow manages to beat Georgia, which would be funny, but I don't think will happen. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be decided when it comes down to that, probably in the national championship game. And then thirdly, I'd say the best players step up in the biggest situations. Bryce Young did it against Auburn, saving the season, and he did it against Georgia as well. And that is something that doesn't necessarily reflect in the pure statistics. Clutch is not a number. It's not measurable. And that's why a lot of these analysts are looking at, man, Georgia allows this many points, Alabama scores this many points. And then they do the math. They just do the objective math, and they say, "Oh, this is how it's have to be, right? The defense of Georgia's better than the offense of Alabama." Clutch is not a number. You can't put a price tag on showing up when showing out when you have to. So that's I think that's what happened. I think that's what happened, and I'm fairly confident that can happen again. And I believe that Steve Young is going to beat Georgia once again. And I mean, you could listen. Maybe if Georgia and Alabama play national championship game, they have no more reason to like have the game fixed at that point, right? Because it's both SEC teams. That's obviously the goal for the SEC. At that point, if they hold Alabama to like 10 points all game and beat them like they've done to other teams this season, then maybe there was a point there to be made. I don't believe that that's going to happen, but we're going to let it come down to that. I think it's just going to be that Bryce Young he's great. I think when all is said and done with his Bama career, he's going to be a better quarterback than Tua. He might be the best quarterback ever at Alabama when we're done.
I will say Bryce Young may be all of that. But there's no denying that statistically, this was not a normal Alabama team this season. They have been way worse than the mean as far as Alabama goes. They were not nearly as good as the Alabama team as far as offensive output that they were under Tua. You may be comparatively to Jalen Hurts, but definitely not Mac Jones either. I don't know. It doesn't make sense in the numbers. And there's too many things leaning in that favor. Now, yeah, if the exact same thing happens in the national championship, I will come right here on the show and say, hey, yeah, all right, you're right. Maybe that's just how it is. Maybe Kirby can't beat the master. You know, the student will never beat the master. And
if Georgia, like I said, if Georgia holds them to 7 points, then I'll come on and admit that this SEC championship game was a statistical outlier. Yeah. But until I see that actually happen, because I've seen it not happen too many times. So until that actually happens for once, I'm going to just say, yeah. Steve
just
Young,
know that the Giants also beat the Patriots in 2 Super Bowls.
They did. But the Giants are in Georgia.
I think Georgia would beat the Giants at this point. Right now, with Jake Fromm.
Oh, that I would pay to see that as an
Me
exhibition
too.
match.
Yes, that would be
Jake
awesome.
Fromm with an entire NFL professional team against Georgia.
Yeah, a beat up. I mean, there's not many
Yeah.
superstars left on that team right now.
They should do that in like spring or something. I would be
Yeah,
down.
that'd be amazing.
I'd definitely be down with that. All right, let us know your predictions for all these games in the comments. Opinions on college football, conspiratorial ideations, and your prediction for the college football playoff as well, if you would like to. NFL MVP voting in the comments, or I guess go to the poll on the channel page, not the comments. That's what it's there for. And leave your vote. Let us know what you think, and we're going to see you in the next one.
Doses.
Check the scoreboard. Ha. Check.